It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, and back from the dead, Maddie Lassiter, to produce Maddie on the ones and twos. And we're going to be very, very heavy today on local sports and Arkansas Razorback talk. We know we're listening to you folks. I know some folks are not so happy with the NBA, which I love the NBA, and we can sit here and talk NBA all day. So we're going to talk a little bit more today about the Razorbacks, and we'll try we're going to talk the NBA for a little bit, but we're going to try to lay off a little bit so that you guys can you got another month of this NBA talk. So the Razorbacks released the new branding, the new uniforms as they go across all sports. And if there's one thing that Jeff Long does well, it's market the University of Arkansas, make money. And this, Nike spending lots of money clothing Razorback athletes, and now across the board you're going to have the same fonts, the same looking logos, the same colors. I don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever.
And you mentioned one thing Jeff Long does is market well, and some people will say, well, that's the only thing he's doing well, because if we don't start winning some games, he's out of here. But you look at Nike, and I'm glad you brought up Nike, because some people, from what I've heard, they're under the impression that the university pays Nike. Like, we beg Nike to outfit us, and let's just get that out of the way. The school does not pay Nike. You don't pay your outfitter. That's all part of the deal on their end, because I heard people say, we spent money on these ugly uniforms and this ugly logo, which is a whole nother story. But no, it's from the Nike end of it as well. And to me, it's not about wholesale changes. Actually, the basketball uniforms, the numbering's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same. The shorts are the same as they had last year. The uniforms are mostly the same. But it's about being congruent across your athletic programs, not having a different baseball jersey and a number, style, and color. So I think from that standpoint, it's good to be consistent.
Oh, it definitely is good to be consistent. And the point is, the Razorbacks, like you said, they're getting paid to do this. It's not like they're not. Where'd you get those clothes? The toilet store? It's not like they went and they picked this horrible looking. I like the way the uniforms look. I don't like the forward facing hog.
That's
we'll
the
talk
key.
a little bit about that. And you've seen it. If you've been on the internet in the last 2 days, you've seen the memes and the things that came from the forward-facing hog. I'm not a huge fan of the forward-facing hog, but everything else about the uniforms I loved. I loved how they released the uniforms. I love how they did you see the video of how they did that?
Yeah.
Like the players standing in silhouette behind this thing, and the smoke and the thing rises and they walk out, and it was really cool. Got a lot of headlines, a lot of people talking about it across the country. That's exactly what Jeff Long was going for. Not only that, but it's consistent across the board. The uniforms look nice, they look clean, and I've got no complaints other than the forward-facing hog.
No, neither do I.
All right, well, we've got a very special guest for us on the line today on the Sports Blitz. We are pleased to be joined by the new head coach of the Russellville Junior High Cyclones. We talked before about how both teams in football and in all sports now are going to be one school rather than East and West. They're going to be one team now. And Coach Dean Norsworthy is with us on the line. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. I appreciate you taking the time. We just found out about this yesterday, and we got the news passed to us, and we got a hold of you, and you've been gracious enough to give us a little bit of your time. Talk with us about how this came about and what you're looking forward to as far as being the Russellville Junior High coach.
Well, I moved here 3 years ago. I was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Tech, and I'm originally from Arkansas. I grew up in Nashville down in the southwest corner, and so when I moved back here, I just fell in love with Russellville and the people here, and love the scenery. I ride a Harley Davidson, and I ride Highway 7 all the time. So when I moved here, I fell in love with the place. Bought the first home I've ever owned in my life, and sitting up on the mountain overlooking the lake, and as there was changes at Tech with a new head coach, and he and I didn't really talk philosophically, and so when I resigned after our last ball game this year, and I was kind of trying to decide what I wanted to do, and I really didn't want to leave. And Coach Holt gave me an opportunity to be a part of the staff and be able to take over the junior high. They're consolidating the two, the East and the West, and they needed somebody that had some experience and had a strong football background on the offensive side of the ball to kind of tutor them. And I thought, what a great opportunity that would be for me to get to stay in a place that I love and get to coach kids again.
Well, before we get to your coaching background, we'll ask plenty about that. I knew you were a pretty quality football guy when I found out you're from Nashville. My wife is actually from Nashville, so you breathe and live football down in Nashville, so that's good to hear.
Well, there's a great deal of passion for football down in Nashville, and I think sometimes that passion may bleed over into insanity, but either way, it is definitely part of the heartbeat that goes along those streets down there, that's for sure.
Well, Weldon, it's cool to see somebody who has got such a great coaching resume so far.
Absolutely.
I got at the university here in Arkansas Tech, and now he's going to be coaching the kids and helping them. It's going to help fundamentally, I'm sure, in a lot of different ways that you can kind of allude to.
Oh, absolutely, Coach Weldon Braxton here. Good to have you on. Now, what I want to know is, what's it going to be like for you? What do you anticipate when you go from coaching college kids and you're dealing with 18, 19, 22-year-olds and the things you say to them and how you interact with them and how you're dealing with youngsters, early teenagers still learning the game? I know from experience, from a coaching standpoint, it's different when you're working with youngsters as opposed to some of the older guys. How are you looking at that challenge?
Well, obviously, there are things with the older ones. Every Saturday afternoon, was a must-win, because if you don't win enough games, obviously you get to change locations. And so there was a lot more pressure on us to win there, and therefore that was the whole result that you approach the week with. What can we do to win this ball game? The thing I'm looking forward to with these young people, and it's not that we don't want to win, but I think the most important thing for these young people is teach them how to play the game correctly, whether it's technique, whether it's philosophy, not worry so much about game planning and scheming your opponents as opposed to teaching Coach Holt's offense and defense to these guys, teaching them the proper techniques, the steps, the reads, the progressions. And so when they get to high school, they are, that much farther ahead for Coach Holt and his staff, and it allows them to maybe get on the field for the varsity a little bit sooner.
Well, that's one thing I was wanting to ask about, and that's the sort of camaraderie between the junior high and high school. It's got to be a huge deal, especially since Russellville's going to one school and they're not running two different things anymore. And I wanted to get to that here in a minute, but I wondered how your conversations with Coach Holt have been about, how you're going to teach the game and what sort of philosophically what you're going to do. Are you guys going to I know you've probably got a philosophy that's a little bit different than Coach Holt. How are those things going to mesh?
Well, I had the great opportunity to go with those guys, Coach Holt and three of the other assistants, to the University of Missouri a couple of weeks ago. And we spent a week together, and we taught football with their staff up there. And then, obviously, as our staff, we sat and talked a lot of football. What Coach Holt, when this kind of came about in our initial conversations, his whole concern was that he wanted to make sure that the kids were getting, quality coaching on technique and fundamentals. That was the thing that he was, concerned about. He wanted to develop his quarterbacks and receivers at a little higher level than what they had been getting done with. And, obviously I'll be able to bring, some different insights into that. But for me, the most important thing is that what I teach them fits his philosophy and his scheme, because, obviously once they get to the high school, you kind of want to treat it like, I don't really want to say a farm system, but you want to get them in high school, you want to be able to plug them right in immediately and them not miss a beat, and that's probably, in my opinion, that's what's best for the kids too, because, those kids, they want to get up to high school, they want to win, they want to have a chance to compete at the highest levels, and obviously the better their fundamentals and technique and understanding of the offense and the defense in the junior high, when they arrive at high school, it's going to give them a better chance to compete at a higher level.
Well, Coach, I think you're absolutely right about that. One thing I don't think people understand is how important it is to develop players at that junior high level. You think you can just stick anybody in there and coach them and then wait for them to get good at the high school. Doesn't work that way. So I think your move there will be good in that regard. But Mark mentioned the fact that the schools are consolidating as far as the teams. Now, a lot of people have said, well, if you have two different junior high teams, you can develop more kids, get kids more playing time, and make the high school better. Well, now with Russellville, it's a consolidation effort going on. You're going to have one football team. How do you think that affects the development and feeding more players into the Russellville high school system?
Well, I don't think it's going to affect the development and the teaching process at all. I think, if anything, it's going to improve it because it'll be, there'll be a higher level competition within the team. As it says in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I can't think of a better verse or philosophy to put, towards sports. And so these young men are going to have a chance to compete against each other. So you're going to have the best each class has to offer going against each other every day. Now, where it will affect them is that, obviously it's going to affect some kids' playing time. And that's going to probably disappoint some parents, and I understand that coming into the deal. But it will not affect how much quality coaching that they're going to receive during practice during the week. And, the game is definitely a reward to those young men for all the hard work that they put in during the week. And they're going to have a better chance to win more ball games because you're going to have a higher talent level on this team. But, parents want to see their kids play on Thursday nights, and they're going to be disappointed when their child doesn't play, every minute of every quarter. But, they have to be able to look past that and understand. I mean, heck, I grew 6 inches during my 9th grade year and put on 40 pounds. I mean, I was, you could have hung a flag on me and flew it in the wind when I was started in the 9th grade, and I kind of grew into a young man going into that spring. And, but I was lucky I had good junior high coaches that taught me how to play the game. And so, that's what they got to understand, that these kids in the 9th grade, they're not who they're physically going to be in the 10th, 11th, and 12th. And, we're going to play them all, and we're going to teach them the things they need to know. But it's a process, and they got to be patient with it.
Well, Coach, I don't know how deep you are into this yet, and whether or not this is something you can answer, but I wondered, there are a lot of coaches who had been on these two staffs, and I wondered if you knew who your staff was going to be as far as junior high coaches.
Well, right now there is some fluctuation within the staff, and not necessarily from a standpoint of, concerns about who we're going to have and who we aren't going to have. I know that we have a couple openings at the high school, and they're moving people around both at the middle school, the junior high, and the high school. They're trying to fit the best people in the best positions. Really and truly, with just a handful of guys, I think that myself and Coach Holder are probably the only ones that are set in stone right now. But there's a lot of movement to create growth, on the staff, and there's a lot of emphasis placed on develop our winning program from Johnny Johnson right now, and so that's kind of where we're going.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time today. We're going to let you go, and hopefully, as you get a little bit more settled and things get a little bit more set in stone, we can have you back on to talk a little bit more about your philosophy and the way things go leading up into next season. We appreciate you taking time to join us today.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it, and anytime y'all want me, y'all got me.
All right. Well, we'll give you a call any old time. That's Russellville Junior High's new head football coach, Dean Norsworthy. We appreciate him taking time to visit with us today. We're going to hit our first break. When we come back, we're going to get to our CrossFit Russellville poll question. What do you like? What do you dislike about the new University of Arkansas uniforms?
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russell and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
We're back on the Sports Blitz. Maddie has been gone too long because now he's playing stupid games with us. We don't take kindly to your crap around here, Maddie.
We don't, Matty. We don't.
Thank you to Coach Dean Norsworthy, head coach of the Russellville Junior High Cyclones, coming on the show for the first segment today. Both those schools, East and West, consolidated to one. It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with the calls from the parents, because it's going to happen. Promise you it's going to happen. As we're thinking about local sports, the reason I know that it's going to happen is because we're doing the Brightest Stars Banquet, May 29th. We've given you all the information about it. Rather than regurgitate all that once more, we'll tell you can get your tickets today at rivervalleyleader.com, and we're going to have a great time. Over 100 nominees in all the sports from 10 schools, and I know that parents are going to be upset because I'm already having parents email me and call me, not only asking, how do they get tickets and that type of thing, but asking why their kid wasn't nominated and why I didn't choose their kid. Well, I didn't choose any kids. The coaches from each school nominated kids, and they're going to pick the winners too. So it's all off me. I just get to say who the nominees are and who wins, and I'm the facilitator here. So I know that he's going to hear from some parents about the lack of playing time, but it's something that it comes with the territory.
It's really tough. I mean, that's the toughest thing about coaching the schools is that everybody's on the team. Everybody feels that they have should be there. The skill level, junior high maybe not so much because the kids don't separate themselves as much, but still to a degree. And you may have some parents who feel their children should be playing. It's different from me. I pick the players, and so I pick you, and I'll tell you if you play or not. It's up to you to accept it. A little bit different for the schools, but that's just another challenge. But coach seemed like he was up to the challenge. He spoke well. I think in his time, and I'm not getting too far off topic, but I think it's time for Russellville football to take that next step. There was a time where they were perennial contender. Back with the old 5A, when 5A was the highest as the class went, Russellville was one of the powers in the 5A West Class 5A as a whole. Time to get back there, and I think this move will help that.
We shall see how it affects the Russellville squad in the next upcoming years. I assume they're going to be pretty good when they put all that talent together on one team, so we shall see. Let's move on real quickly. Let's run across the wire. One of the biggest topics, I don't want to bury the lead because the NBA playoffs are a big deal. Albert Pujols hit his 500th home run last night, and we're not huge baseball. I'm not a huge baseball fan. Weldon likes it, but he hit his 500th home run. That's definitely newsworthy. Something that he hasn't been really accused or connected to the steroid stuff, performance-enhancing drugs in any way. So I thought it'd be interesting to ask a question about who the best baseball player alive is. Like, who's the best ever, who's still alive right now, who's the best baseball player alive, and Albert Pujols would be on that list for sure as far as a short list. But now he's hit his 500th home run, sort of come to life a little bit in L.A. after a great career in St. Louis with the Cardinals. Now he's with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and
Orange
everywhere
County
else in the Orange County vicinity. He hit his 500th home run last night. Weldon, your thoughts?
Look, the 500 home run club, and it's something that's been talked about really last night ever since he hit it, is that it's not something that it used to be. You get in the 500 home run club, the Hall of Fame's not even a question. Then it becomes a debate as far as what your status is historically. Now, with the steroid era, fair or unfair, Albert Pujols came from that cloud. He's on the other side of it, but he was still coming up underneath that. The Rafael Palmeiros, the Barry Bonds, the Sammy Sosas, the Mark McGuires. Look at pitchers like Roger Clemens. And so there's always going to be some degree of doubt, even though there's no concrete evidence connecting Albert Pujols. But look, this guy was on pace to be the greatest right-handed hitter of all time before he hit a wall with the Angels when he first got there. He's off to a very good start this year, partly because I think he's comfortable. He's comfortable because the first 2 years in Anaheim, he left his family back in St. Louis, and he kind of had an apartment-type deal for the season. He moved them out to L.A. this year. I think he's more at peace. He's 34 years old. I don't know if the longevity records are still available for him because he's getting older and he hadn't stayed healthy, but I think it's a tremendous milestone for him. We may not view it that way as a public just because 500 home runs doesn't mean what it used to, but Albert's still one of the greatest right-handers we've seen, and I think he deserves a lot of praise.
He definitely does. And you mentioned youngest two type awards. I think he was third on the list as far as youngest players to hit 500 home runs. Man, I remember I played fantasy baseball one time, and it was as a sophomore in high school, and we did this. This is before like getting on the internet and picking your team right there. We did this pen and paper in class, in biology class in 10th grade. And one of my friends who, he's a really smart guy, but I thought he was an idiot because I think my first pick was like King Griffey Jr. or somebody like that, or Barry Bonds or whatever it was. And his first pick was this young guy named Albert Pujols. And he's talking about how great he's going to be. And he's a Cardinals fan, obviously. And I was just like, I have never heard of this guy. And I guess that was 2001. And here we are 13 years later, and this guy has become one of the best of all time. So it's kind of crazy where he's gone in his career. It seems like he's a lot older even than 34.
Well, I mean, you get off into some other
but what his birth certificate says.
Yeah, but look, I remember my first fantasy league. I didn't know what I was doing either. I picked a guy in the first round, ended up dropping him 2 weeks into the year, but I ended up winning that league, and now I have 6 titles to show for it. But that's neither
one
here
for the
nor
pinky.
there. I do have one fantasy baseball title for the pinky. Won one last year, but that's not the point. I answered the other part of your question. Who's the greatest living of all time? Now, not active, right? All time, like just alive. I got to go Willie. I got to go Willie Mays, 660 home runs. I mean,
and they all count.
They all count. Obviously, defensively, his greatness. Even if you were just talking about at the plate, he would still be one of the ones you would have to consider. But you combine what he did defensively too. I got to go with Willie Mays. Got
some of those iconic plays, the basket catch over the shoulder. I like Willie. It'd be hard. I mean, to discuss the steroid era and some of those guys, the Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens of the world.
Because I think Barry's the best hitter, though. Like, if we're just talking about hitting, but he has a steroid cloud, so, factor
it's
that.
A huge cloud over him. I'll just go with King Griffey Jr. I love King Griffey Jr.
Why not?
He was my boy back in the day, and then he got hurt a million times in a row, so that was no fun. Also, let's just change the order here. Let's go with NCAA basketball. We've been talking about who's going, who's staying in college basketball, and it looks like Kentucky's Julius Randle, shock of the year. He's going pro, and then today it just came out that Alex Poitras is going to return to Kentucky for his junior year. A lot of folks not surprised by that. I sort of am, because I thought he was going to come out after his freshman year, and here he is going back now for his junior year. A lot of folks talking about the Harrison twins possibly returning, and if they do, look out for Kentucky again.
No question about it. And look, the draft is never about how good you are. Like that's a notion that I've completely dismissed. It's not about how good you are. It's about where your stock is. The Harrison twins, look, there's a reason why they're thinking about coming back. It's not so much that they feel they need to work on their game, but it's the fact that Andrew he's in the highest position, and he's picked to go 29th at best, and then Aaron's in the second round altogether. So their stock's not very high. Julius Randle probably thought about, do I need to work on my game? But, hey, Chad Ford's got me in his top 5. Jabari, I'm sure he wanted to play with Okafor. They're good friends from back in the Chicago area. A lot of things pulling him back to Duke. When you look on the draft board and you see that you're in the top 3,
you got to go.
You got to go.
And Maddie's got to buy us a cheeseburger.
Maddie's got to buy us a cheeseburger because we told him that was going to happen. You look at an Alex Poitras and even a Will Cauley-Stein. I know they came to Kentucky 2 years ago. They came into class with Archie Goodwin thinking they would all be one-and-done guys. And here they are coming back for a third year. And I'm sure they'd like to go, but when they look at draft boards, Cauley-Stein, some people had him in the teens, most people had him in the 20s or in the second round, and then Poitras, half of them had him getting drafted. Some people didn't even have him getting picked. So I think when you look at that, he may not have wanted to come back, but it's like, kind of have to.
Yeah, he doesn't really have much choice. It's going to help. It's not going to help the turnover there in Kentucky. They want you to all leave in 1 year, and then they can replace you. And
they got some kids
guys.
waiting.
Yeah, we were talking about this after the show the other day. Kentucky's got a point guard coming in. I don't remember his name, but he's a little guy. And I watched him at McDonald's All-American game, and the guy's like Jason Kidd. He's got eyes in the back of his head, and he's just throwing it left, right, and center, and he was very impressive.
Yeah,
I'm trying to look up his name real quick.
And they've got some other guys who are waiting too, because it seems with the Kentucky era, what Calipari has done. If you look at the top ratings, I don't care if it's Rivals or if it's ESPN, there's always a group of guys where everybody's signed, but then like one random player in the top 10 or two random players in the top 15 are unsigned. And you're like, well, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're waiting on Kentucky people to make their decision. So that's what it's all about. Miles Turner, I've talked about him, 7-footer that can flat out handle. I don't know if the decks have been cleared enough for him. Randall's gone, so that may make him lean Kentucky. But with Cauley-Stein there and Marcus Lee, if he learns how to play any form of basketball, he will be a first-round pick.
Tyler Ulis, 5'9", 145 point guard. The kid's Freddie Lee. A little bit taller, but the kid is a freak. I was watching him in the McDonald's All-American game, like I mentioned. He was unbelievable. So maybe he just had a really good game, and Arkansas can whip their tail. Coaching news out of the SEC. Tennessee hired a coach, and I don't even know his name.
Tyndall, yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Southern Miss. Yeah, look. this.
And Missouri's going after a small-time name, too, like a mid-major name.
Yeah, I'm hearing Tim Floyd's hot with Missouri, but...
Well, that's a bigger name even than what I heard yesterday.
Heard
it was like Central Missouri or something like that was on their list.
Oh, Lord. Like I said, they got Konzo. Tennessee got Konzo from Missouri school, but... Tyndall can coach. He's shown that he can do a good job coaching. He did it. Southern Miss, he led them. But the SEC, and I said this when Bruce Pearl got hired, the SEC needs some star power at the coaching position. You can say it doesn't matter. It's all about the players and this and that. But when it comes to getting your brand out there as a conference and as a league, it's about the coach. College sports, it's about the Coach K's. It's about the Bear Bryants of the world. Players, they're good. They're going to go make their name in the pros. You look at a guy like Michael Jordan. Yeah, he did some great things at Carolina, but we know Michael from his greatness with the Chicago Bulls. It's all about having big-name personalities who can recruit and bring the profile of your conference up, because there have been some guys who have had SEC jobs that were pretty decent coaches, but they just weren't dynamic. I look at a Mark Fox at Georgia right now. Mark Fox is a really good basketball coach. Not really the dynamic figure, though, and I think that's kind of holding them back. So I was hoping Tennessee could land a big name just to get more big names in the league. They couldn't. We'll see what Missouri can do. We know they can't get any worse.
No, Tim Floyd from UTEP. You may remember him from USC and getting him in a whole bunch of trouble. You may remember him from following Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls back in the day, and they were terrible. He was also with the New Orleans Hornets. He's a bigger name because he's been in the NBA. He's been at USC. There are some folks who are not happy with that conversation. And then Central Missouri coach Kim Anderson is another one that Missouri was looking at there for their coaching job. And I hope Missouri sucks forever. So that's just I'm an SEC, but I'm an Arkansas homer, so I'm sorry. Sorry, I'll just go ahead and say that. All right, let's hit our break. I don't want to get too far out of whack here as far as the order of the show goes, so we got to hit this break, and we'll talk a little NBA playoffs. Pacers righted the ship last night with a huge third-quarter performance. We'll talk about Frank Vogel coaching for his job and much more right after the break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
We've got Arkansas Razorback uniform talk here in just a little bit. It's our CrossFit Russellville poll question. Your thoughts, the things you love, the things you hate about the Arkansas uniforms and the new branding strategy. What are your favorite and least favorite elements of the new Arkansas uniforms? I'll just go ahead and give mine away. I don't like the forward-facing hog, and I like everything else. So
I want to talk about that too.
We'll get to that here in just a little bit. But before we do, a little NBA roundup because the playoffs are upon us. Tonight we've got Charlotte, Miami, Dallas, San Antonio, and Portland, Houston. Miami looking to go up 2-0. San Antonio and Dallas. San Antonio leads 1-0. And then Portland trying to take 2 from the Houston Rockets. And that's going to be probably the most fun series to watch out of all these. If you're not, Oklahoma City and Memphis has been pretty good, tied a game apiece. Pacers get a win yesterday, and ESPN on the front page here after they go 31-13 in the third quarter to take a huge lead, and the Indiana Pacers roll up the Atlanta Hawks in Game 2 to salvage a split at home. ESPN's talking about Frank Vogel coaching for his job. You've spoken to this.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about it. They lose in this series, it's over. I mean, if he gets to Miami and he looks good, he probably stays around, but even that would be put him in question. But last night it wasn't looking good. I mean, I watched that game, and Atlanta had a 5-point lead after the fourth quarter. Atlanta had a double-digit lead in the second quarter, and then Indiana made a run to cut it to, I think, 4 points at halftime. I thought that was the difference in the game. Indiana went into halftime feeling good about themselves because Atlanta was on track to beat them again. And so you got to keep in mind, this is a 1 versus an 8 seed, and we're having conversations like trying to earn a split at home and trying to play with the team that finished below 500 in the Eastern Conference. I think it was really good for Indiana, the fact that they could go ahead, get some momentum going. Paul George looked like a star, and I've said it many times. If Indiana wants any chance of beating the Miami Heat, Paul George has to be a superstar. He can't just be a good cog in the Pacers' wheel. He is more talented than anybody on that team. He's got to start playing like it. If not, they have no shot offensively. And so you saw Indiana's defense, and that's really where they hit rock bottom. They've never been great on offense, but their defense has been among the top 2 in the league. And then the second half, they started to lock down Jeff Teague. They did a better job with pick and roll. They did a whole lot of things differently defensively, and that's how they ran away against the Hawks.
Look, we talked about this before. We talked about it on Monday. The two things that we thought, or that I thought, were the issue with the Indiana Pacers, and I don't think either one of them have to do with Frank Vogel, but a strong force and a strong personality from your head coach could possibly stop some of this junk. I heard before game 1 that, and I don't know if you read this, but Lance Stevenson and Evan Turner get into a fist fight with one another before game 1 of the playoffs. Like, that's unacceptable behavior, and they've got to know better than that. Neither one of them have been there and done that, though, obviously. Lance Stevenson is crazy, so even if he had, I don't know that I'd trust him.
Yeah, trust him.
But Indiana, to me, I think it's a little early to talk about this because they're going to win this series. And take it from me, who said the Chicago Bulls were going to beat the Washington Wizards, and now they're down 0-2. The Indiana Pacers are going to be all right in this series. Atlanta's just not very good, but it was kind of a questionable. I looked up and I saw Atlanta was up 8 or 9 points, and I was like, what in the world is going on? The Pacers kind of flipped the switch, and it was like they kind of figured something out.
In that second half, and you mentioned Evan Turner, when you're the Pacers and you don't have a lot of superstar talent, I think Paul George can be, but he won't be. But when you're not a team built around superstars and your chemistry and playing together is something that you're really sensitive to, it's really strange. Stay with me on this one. Around the trade deadlines when things kind of got nasty for Indiana, you bring in Evan Turner, but they brought somebody else in too. Guess who they brought in?
Andrew Bynum.
They brought in Andrew Bynum. Now, I told you, I said on this show and said his size will help, but Andrew Bynum's a weird dude. You got to watch him. And Tim Legler said this, and I don't know if he has anything behind it. I don't think he does, but I certainly think it's within the realm of possibility. He's sitting next to Big Roy, big man sticking together. Bynum saying, man, Roy, they need to be getting you the ball more. They're out here jacking these shots, Roy. They need to be getting you the ball. You need to be asking for it. And then all, kind of chemistry issues because, Andrew Bynum's always been a strange guy. And when chemistry is something sensitive to you, that's something that I think's a possibility. I can't claim it because I don't know it, but it's out there.
All the chemistry has been affected. Roy Hibbert, man, he's just been poop the last month or so. So he'll have to get his junk together. He's going to get run off on a rail also. So, again, from the last time we were on, the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was a crazy game. The end of the game against the Memphis Grizzlies in Game 2. Oklahoma City won Game 1 handily. Game 2 looked like they were going to lose in regulation. Kevin Durant hits a ridiculous shot to force overtime after Kendrick Perkins, our boy,
that's right. Give him his due.
Hit a layup at the buzzer, but to make that possible, down 4 with about 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant hits a 3 falling out of bounds and gets fouled, but the Oklahoma City Thunder and Memphis Grizzlies, we mentioned, that may be one of the more entertaining series because Tony Allen is just all up. You remember Mike Anderson's press conference when he said we're going to guard him off the bus? Tony Allen knows what Kevin Durant had for breakfast, and he is all up in his business all day long. Kevin Durant's still getting his, but Russell Westbrook's shooting 28 times a game, and the Oklahoma City Thunder in a dogfight.
You said the Washington-Chicago series kind of surprised you. I got to admit, this series is one that surprised me because I didn't think Memphis could really compete. I know they have a lot of good things going for them with their size, but I just thought Oklahoma City athletically and their ability to score at an efficient rate, which is something Memphis traditionally hasn't done well, would end up biting them. But I should know better because I should know better than to go on assumptions based on years past because you look at this Memphis team, they're actually a little bit different. You have a guy like Udrih who is savvy offensively, Courtney Lee, a guy who can make some shots, and so they're a little bit different team than they were last year. It's not just bang it inside to the two big guys, and if that doesn't work, we're in trouble. They actually have some guys, Mike Miller, they bring him back, one of the greatest players in their franchise history. They bring him back now. So now you have some shot makers. You have a little bit more pick and roll besides Mike Conley. They're a more diverse offensive team. They brought in a head coach who He's different than Lionel Hollins, who's more of a physical, traditional, old school. They're still physical, but they're still a little bit more offensive minded. They can do things on the offensive end, which makes them interesting. I'm still going to go to Oklahoma City, but this will be a tougher series than I originally thought.
And as we look across the landscape here of the NBA playoffs, the Brooklyn Nets and Toronto Raptors. Toronto salvaged a split at home. They're now 1 game apiece in that Eastern Conference series. Washington beat the crap out of Chicago. I don't really have much to say about that anymore. I was wrong on that one big time. And then the Golden State Warriors got their tail handed to them by the Los Angeles Clippers the other night. They stole game 1, and it looked like that was what they wanted to do. They could have just gone home and said, you guys can have game 2, because they were down 32 after 3 and lost by 40.
Yeah, that was a really bad one, and the Clippers won't win every game in the series by this much, but I believe the Clippers are the better team, and they need to be winning these games. Again, not blowout fashion. It's pro basketball. The talent is comparable, but they need to be looking like the better team consistently in this series, and I didn't see that in game 1. Saw a whole lot of in game 2. Obviously, that won't be happening in the remaining games, but I do expect the Clippers to take control. I don't think they'll lose more than one more game in this series, so I'm still going to go with the Clippers in 6. But that's Chicago. I do want to say this about Chicago. There's only so much Tom Thibodeau can do. Last year, we rallied around him and said, oh, he's done a great job, and he has done a great job. But you lose Derrick Rose, but you had Nate Robinson, who's not Derrick Rose, but he's offensive minded, he can score. And you still had a Luol Deng. You don't have either one of those this year. You got rid of Nate because Derek was coming back and you didn't want them to clash. So you lose Derek, and then you trade away Luol Deng. You have no offense left. I don't care who's coaching them. Washington's not a great team. They're sloppy. They're young. But they have more than depleted Chicago. And so the Bulls' effort is commendable. Nothing to be ashamed of, but they're in trouble.
Yeah, they're in a lot of trouble. All right, let's hit a break. Because when we come back, we can talk real quickly about the awards that were given out. The Defensive Player of the Year, you nailed it, Joakim Noah. Most Improved, Goran Dragic. And the Coach of the Year, Greg Popovich. So it looks like that Kevin Durant will probably get his MVP sometime next week.
Look at you, that look on your face. I
asked the question the other day. No, I mean, I hadn't even considered, because I've been saying all year, Kevin Durant, it's his turn, so to speak, and he put up the numbers that he deserves it for sure. But I asked a question on Twitter the other day just to see what people thought.
What'd you
I
ask?
said, what do you think? Would you be mad if the NBA named co-MVPs and LeBron and Kevin Durant? And everybody was like, yes, I would freak out. So
yeah, I know
I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, Kevin Durant earns it. He earned it this year.
He earned it, but then you did pull up a scab of LeBron hate, though. But that was a good question by you, because yes, Kevin Durant deserved it, but at the same time, to me, it's still more about LeBron James not getting it in the minds of some people. But Goran Dragic, Most Improved Player, he deserved it. We listed a number of candidates, and I didn't even list his name, but he was certainly somebody was deserving. Have you seen his rap video? That is the greatest, funniest piece of music ever put together. You need to check that out soon. Goran Dragic's rap video. If you've not seen it, watch it after the show, because we got more coming up.
No, yeah, I've not. Goran Dragic.
That's a rap video.
Rapping.
Yeah.
Is he good? I saw
it's put together.
He's
well.
like,
it's put together.
I saw who was it? I saw Dempsey, the soccer player.
Oh yeah,
he's a rapper apparently.
I didn't know that.
That'd be one that I would mute or turn the channel. Pretty sure that would be no questions asked. All right, we got to hit a break. We're gonna get back to the uniform talk and Arkansas Razorbacks spring football coming to a head. We got this spring scrimmage on Saturday. Coach is not real excited with certain aspects of the team. We'll talk about that right after the break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz on Wednesday. It's our final segment of the day. We got to hit some hog talk and the big news coming. I guess it was Tuesday night. No,
Was
it
when
Tuesday?
we got off the air, so was it Monday?
Monday night,
Yeah.
maybe, because it seems like it's been longer than that.
Yeah,
It had to have been Monday night because it was on yesterday. It was in the news cycle. So Monday night at the Hogsby Awards, I think is when they did this. The University of Arkansas and Jeff Long and every coach, everybody together released the new branding, the new logos, the new colors, the new fonts and things to the Razorback uniforms, taking basically what they've done. And I've seen a picture where they had each uniform, a picture of each uniform in one frame, and it was just like, it was kind of a free-for-all. There were different fonts, different color schemes, different things for each sport, and they have unified everything. You would think that your uniforms should be uniform, right? But the University of Arkansas, there was some back and forth, and now everything's going to be the same Arkansas and same Razorbacks as far as the font. May not like the font, but I don't have a problem with it, but it's going to be the same across all sports. They're going to have their own look to the type of uniform. Obviously, the track uniform and the basketball uniform don't look the same, and the football uniform and the baseball uniform don't look the same, but they've got the same central color scheme. They've got a new secondary logo that's going to go in places like, let's see if I can get there, like this on the jersey, the football jersey. It's going to be a forward-facing hog. And if you've seen it on the internet, I'm sure you've seen the memes where people are comparing it to Pumbaa from The Lion King. And that's the first thing I thought when I saw it. It looked like that funny-looking warthog from The Lion King. But everything else, I am a fan of.
Yeah, look, the rebranding, that should be a no-brainer. You've got to have the same thing across the board because you make more money doing that too. I mean, because when you talk about a brand and what a brand is, it's about being recognizable on several platforms to several people in several places. And so if you've got Arkansas with a reclining hog in cursive one place, and you got a running hog from the 90s in one place, or you got all these different things, and some baseball team may want a lighter color red. I mean, they were all over the place uniform wise. It had gotten really out of hand. So the fact, I don't care if it's plain Jane, the fact that you've unified everything color wise, font wise, that's a win right there. So now let's get to the forward facing hog, which is what everybody wants to talk about. On a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 5's in the middle, I'm about a 6. I don't hate it. I kind of like it. Do I think it could be better? Sure. And the thing I'm thinking about is I've been looking at the sideways hog, and I'm thinking is this hog, the forward-facing hog, a turned-around version of the sideways, and it's not. And that's my only issue. I wish the forward-facing hog, if you could turn that around, I think it would look different than what we have, because I think the nose is different. The top of the nose on the forward-facing hog kind of protrudes forward, whereas the bottom of the nose protrudes forward on the forward-facing hog. And then I think you would have seen some type of teeth. You got those razory teeth.
Got
on
the
side.
tusk.
Well, the tusk, and then in the sideways hog, you got the razory teeth.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't see it as much with the forward-facing hog, but I think you would see some of it. I just think, because to me, it's not enough white.
Maddie, can you find the forward-facing hog while he's talking?
And then post, there's not enough white. Like, you got the tusk and then the eyes, and then it's a lot of red and black. So I think you need a little bit more of an accent in there, tweak it a little bit. But, as far as what it is, I'm a 6. I'm fine. You have to have a secondary logo. That's the point, because some people are calling in, why did we need to do this? You need a secondary logo. Every NBA team has one, and more colleges are doing it, because it's all about selling your brand.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I did see some $27 T-shirts that I will not be partaking in, because
that was coming.
Who spends $27 on a T-shirt? Like, man, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm poor. I'm not. There ain't no way.
Was it dry fit?
No, it was just a regular T-shirt with the forward-facing hog on it. I don't even like that stupid hog. I don't even care if you gave me the sideways-looking hog with the new font. I ain't buying it for $27. But I looked at it and I don't love it. I'm not gonna throw a fit about it, but I don't love it. I know what they did it, why they did it. Weldon made the points very eloquently, but I wish it was a little thicker. I wish he looked a little more muscular and mean. You don't want him to look like Pumbaa exactly, which if you made him a fat guy, that's exactly what that hog would look like. But you also have to put it right there on the top of that jersey. So I understand you can't make it too big and get outside, but they make it look mean. They tried to make it look as good as they could. So I don't have too much of a problem. I never thought about the teeth and that type of stuff, but that's a good point to add to it as far as making it look a little bit more fierce. But I'm not the huge fan of the forward-facing hog, although I understand it. I do love the fact that you're getting away from those gradient numbers, which everybody hated those, especially people in the media. And I was watching on TV and I couldn't tell. I don't know how Chuck Barrett sitting up there, he doesn't have the benefit of the high def camera this far away to know what number it is, and he's got to call this off on the radio. I would be throwing a fit if I were those guys about having to tell what's it, 80 or 88 or what is this number that.
Yeah.
So they got away from that. They got to a more. And you're going to talk about Brett Bielema here in a minute. They got to more of a Brett Bielema standard uniform. He doesn't want this outlandish, crazy Oregon stuff that Bobby Petrino was really a fan of. Got rid of the anthracite in football. It looks like they're going to keep it in basketball, but it's gone from the football uniforms. Just a clean look, a nice new day for Arkansas Razorback sports. All that. It ceases to matter if you continue to lose. You just need to go out and win.
You do it. Look, that gradient stuff, you're 100% right. Not only on the uniforms, but the helmet. First time I saw it, I was like, somebody dropped a helmet in tar, like the back of it. They need to clean that off, And then the white helmets had it too. That needed to go, and then the numbers too. And yeah, it's more of a Coach Bielema. Obviously, you can't get more plain than what Wisconsin had for uniforms if you want a guide, but I don't think they're so plain Jane, though, too. So I do think they have a nice, clean look to it. I will say this on the logo, or on the forward-facing hog, one more thing. I think you could keep what you have right now and zoom it in. Make the eyes a little bit more of the star. I think you could accomplish a lot more with that, too. Just a subtle change.
Nice. So those are our favorite and least favorite things about the Razorback uniforms. I just like the way they look, man. I just like I'm about to sneeze, so take it from me. No, don't take it from me. I'm good. I fought it off. This stinking allergy-infested room is killing me. Anyway, the uniforms look good. We like the way that they're going to portray. I like the fact that it got all the way out. I saw it on Yahoo. I saw it on ESPN. I saw it a bunch of different places. Yeah. We're talking about Jeff Long and branding. I got a call from Arkansas Tech not too long ago. They're trying to do the same sort of thing. They had a logo, and somehow we had in our stock an older logo, and we used the older logo. It wasn't 10 minutes before we got a call. Hey, can you change that to the new logo and get rid of that old one, because we're trying to set this up. It was a year ago,
okay.
But I actually got an email the other day about something that was Arkansas Tech trying to brand. So the University of Arkansas going to be on it, and it was good that it got out there in the national scale.
Well, I was going to say Tech needed to, because they had like 5 shades of yellow, 6 shades of green. And, they need to get that tightened up.
So, spring football real quickly before we get out of here. Heard some talk from Coach Bielema, and in spring football, you always get this, everything rah-rah, everything's great. And he's been talking a little bit negatively about some groups of the team. Now, he's been glowing about the tight ends and guys like A.J. Derby, who he said, and I quote, literally, he changed our offense overnight. Playing tight end instead of quarterback. Who'd have thunk it? Put him somewhere other than quarterback, and he would be better off. But he has not been happy with the offensive line.
Well, and the thing is, offensive line's got to play better. And look, he knows it because to do what he wants to do, he's got to have really good offensive line play. We know he has high standards for the offensive line. We can talk SEC versus Big Ten and the level of competition. All that stuff is valid. But what's also valid is NFL's the NFL. So if you're too slow or you can't play in the NFL, they're not going to draft you. They're still drafting Wisconsin linemen. So we know he has the ability to appraise that position, and we know he's going to be really critical of it. I guess, and I've heard some of the comments, I guess I haven't heard them all, but the impression I got was that they were unsettled at certain positions, and that's a concern. You want to be settled everywhere. The reason I feel pretty good about it is I think it's more, not completely, but I think it's more about him being picky rather than not having anything. So I think he's got good players, good offensive linemen to put on the field, but they're not up to his picky standards, and therefore he's painting them a little bit poorly. So I think it's one of those things where you go back to a Bobby Petrino era where he would complain about a quarterback even if he threw for 350 in a scrimmage, he'd still complain. I think it's a little bit like that as far as they've got bodies. I mean, they've got obviously Kirkland and Skipper and Charpentier, and they've got all these kind of guys. Bray Cook is emerging as well. So they've got a number of guys. They've got good freshmen coming in. I think he's a little concerned, but also think he's nitpicking some too.
Yeah, it does seem like he's trying to absolutely find something. Even if everything's good, he got to find something to gripe about. I remember our coach used to do that. We'd have a clean practice, and he'd be like, "All right, we're running for this," and we're like, "What? Really?" Yeah. Somebody dribbled the ball off the court, or rolled the ball off the court too slow or something. I don't know. Yeah. Anything he could find to pick out. It's kind of funny to me that he's doing that. But at the end of the day, like you said, he's got to have some road grading linemen, and he's got to have several of them. And he's, Pittman and Bielema, it's kind of one of the things they're known for. So hopefully the offensive line can be solid this year. I'm hoping that some of the freshmen can come in and compete. He's talking about the center position. You got to try to replace Travis Swanson, one of the best offensive linemen Arkansas has had in probably nearly a decade since Jason Peters was the tight end, and Sean Andrews was a lineman there. I guess there's been some other ones that were pretty decent, but Swanson was way up there. So you've got some offensive line work that needs to be done. Wonder about the freshmen. Heard a little bit of talk about the defensive line, especially the defensive tackles, and heard how thin they are, and they're looking for a guy like Bijan Jackson to come in and sort of compete for playing time. And he's going to have to contribute immediately. I've heard a lot about Corliss Marshall. I know you've talked a little bit about him in the past. Also, the receivers looking really good. Guys like freshman Jared Cornelius is the guy that I'm looking at. And then also Alex Collins. He dispelled the rumors, so to speak. I say he dispelled them because, unless he does decide to transfer, he said yesterday he's happy at Arkansas. He's staying at Arkansas. Unless something just crazy happens this summer, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, obviously Alex Collins is somebody Arkansas needs to keep in the mix. And, the defensive line, anytime you're thin in an area, that's a little bit different than just complaining about the quality of play, because thin, of course, that means you don't have the bodies you want to have at a certain area. We know in this league, defensive line is important, particularly being able to get after the quarterback and stopping the run. I don't care how much people are spreading it out now. This league is still about running the football. Auburn may have did a lot of things, a lot of smoke and mirrors, and a lot of whistles and bells, but bottom line is what Auburn do. They ran the football, and actually ran the football up the gut quite a bit effectively. You still in this league, you got to be able to hold up. So that's when we look at the defensive line, we look at the linebackers. So hopefully with John Jackson, they can get some more contributions, because that is an area of concern.
It definitely is, and we'll see in fall camp who emerges. You're going to have some guys in heated competitions, and that's all you can ask for. Knowing this stinking schedule is going to be so tough, it's kind of frustrating. I kind of wish that in a rebuilding year like this, you had an easy schedule, but there's no such thing in the SEC, so you can't really expect that. All right, we got to get out of here. We'll talk more spring practice next show. We'll look at a little bit more at the NBA playoffs after my Miami Heat go up 2-0 tonight, and the series sort of gets out of hand. Well, what are the other games tonight? We've got Dallas, San Antonio at 7 o'clock, and then at 8:30, probably the best one of the night, the Portland Trailblazers and the Houston Rockets. Portland looking to go up 2-0. Thank you to Coach Dean Norsworthy, the junior high coach now, the Russellville junior high head football coach. Got a quote from Coach Holt about him. He said he's very excited to have the opportunity to bring on such a knowledgeable coach. He is a great addition to the Russellville football staff as well as our school district. We look forward to hearing good things from Coach Norsworthy, Coach Holt this upcoming season. We'll talk to him again very soon once he gets settled in. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark, saying so long. We'll be back on Friday at 11 o'clock.